Okay, hey, we're live now. Hi, Abhimanyu. So, as promised, once again back for Sunday 5 p.m. Tech Pe Charcha, and I think since we started last 2 weeks, most questions have come around this topic. A lot of people have asked about it. Hot topic these days. Lots of people getting new job offers and people asking about compensation, CTC, what are ESOPs, how to find out the best package, how to negotiate. So we'll discuss all of that. And actually, I will start off with a actually broad question to you, Abhimanyu. So, do you think that currently industry, like a lot of people are saying that the sort of baseline what ISD1 gets, what ISD2 gets, all of these things are changing. The industry is very rapidly changing in terms of compensation. And these remote jobs people are saying is also affecting because of the pandemic. So what's your view on that? Actually, your audio is not coming. It's mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry about that.
Ah,
So I was saying that as you mentioned that current industry is changing for good. Uh, like of course we all know developer salaries have gone up for all time high. But unlike often it also is taken with a little bit of skepticism from people that no this is all temporary. But one I think interesting parameter to see here is that unlike let's say stock market or daily trading where often it is like a zero sum game that if someone wins then someone else is going to lose. Tech salaries I think I very strongly believe are not zero sum game because
right.
tech salaries will only go high if there's a lot of innovation happening in any economy. If there are really big very innovative businesses, like actually we can also saw from the past, we can also look at it from the history that say in early 2000s or since very beginning tech salaries skyrocketed in Silicon Valley as well, right? And actually even back then people used to say that it is all for some time, but today we know that 20 years from say 2000 year 2000 2021 years since then, and it has only gone up, right? And
Correct.
of course that led to creation of many multi-billion, now close to $1 trillion companies as well, right? I
Right.
think that India is on the same journey now. Tech salaries are going high. That's a great sign. It should be celebrated rather than being skeptic about. Uh, and of course, if only thing that I think we need to work on is creating abundance of talent. That there are people who are getting these high salaries. They are actually also capable of delivering to that. Helping building $1 trillion companies in India. And as long as that is happening, there's no reason why tech salaries will go down anytime.
Right.
So
Right.
packages are on the rise. This global remote job also is going to boost that, and it's a great sign for overall economy. No one should be skeptic about it. No one should feel worried that why salaries are going high. It is a good thing for everyone.
Right, right. As long as value getting created, it's
Absolutely,
a great thing for everybody, for the economy, for the people, and then for
absolutely,
the tech startups as well.
absolutely.
So I'll quickly, by the way, if anybody has any questions, feel free to keep them, on the chat. I will pick them up as well. But to begin with, I think a lot of people they wanted to know a little breakdown and technical details of the salary as well. So if we talk about say there's like packages there, CTC, then the cash component, there is equity, ESOPs, bonuses, a lot of things. So if we just talk about the cash component first of all, and you have had a lot of experiences working in a lot of companies, and paying a lot of people salaries as well. So here I think these are some small, I think, sort of rapid fire questions we had. So when we talk about base, what is base? What is that word?
So like actually, it's this word is used by many people in a lot of different contexts, uh, and of course, it's not a word which has any formal definition, right? Uh,
Right.
so there are two ways how people look at base. One definition, and in one context how people use it is that effectively divided by 12, and that is the pre-tax money that you get. Of course, you will have to pay tax on top of that, whatever your
Right.
tax liabilities might be. This is where this thing. Of course, we can do another session about taxation for techies, which is
Of course.
right. But yeah, I can relate with that as a young man, when my salary was X, and then I got a job paying me 2X, and then effectively what I got at the end of the month was much less than 2X. It was maybe just
Correct.
1.1X or something, right? And then
Right.
what exactly happened. And then when I talked to the company, they said, rest of it went for the taxes, right? So taxes to be understood, separate the topic. But yeah, one way to look at base salary, often people call it as that, divided by 12, and that is the money that you will get without reducing the taxes. However,
Got it.
often there's another similar sounding word mentioned in the offer letter, which is called basic salary. Right. So
Right.
now,
Basic.
in your basic salary is often taken in a different context. That basic salary is basically, your company, of course, would try to give you a salary structure which is most tax efficient for you. A lot of companies try to do that to help their employees save taxes. Then the basic salary becomes a component which definitely is taxable. On top of that, they might give you a lot of, they might put a lot of money under reimbursement section. Let's say, company might say that we will pay you a phone bill, and there is 2,000 rupees for that. There's HRA, which is house rent allowance, that this is the allowance given to you, which you can use to pay your accommodation, etc. Now, the thing
Right.
is that out of these sections, for as many sections you are actually paying, and you can produce the bills, all of that becomes non-taxable, because then it is not that it's the salary paid to you, but company says that, let's say, for company work you need to keep a phone, you need to have an internet connection at home, or even you need to live somewhere and pay the rent. So there in these sections you can get tax benefit, right? So
Right.
a lot of companies try to keep the basic salary as low as possible, and then a lot more components under special allowances, or your HRA or phone
Flexi
allowance,
benefits also some people call
flexi
it.
benefits, right? So
Right.
you will still get them. Mostly companies will say that you will get this money even if you don't produce the receipts. However, in that case, it will become taxable. All of this is generally included in the base. Basic salary is different, and the base is different. Base is basically your basic salary plus all the components, all the whatever money company might end up paying you.
Got it, got it, got it. So then there's the next question, which is so joining bonus. So what
Yeah.
is the joining bonus? How is it like different people? I think pay different ways as well. And also, I'd like to add one more thing. You're running a startup as well. So from an employer's perspective, why is a joining bonus there? What does it
Exactly.
achieve?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, of course, name itself is self-explanatory. Joining bonus is the bonus that you get as soon as you join the company. Now, why would company give the amount as a joining bonus but not add to the salary, right? Or so first thing is that, of course, obvious factor that like in the prior world, uh, often when someone joins a new company, they might have to take care of a bunch of stuff, right? Like, let's say, relocating to a different city, or let's say paying any past dues, or there might be certain bonus which is supposed to be paid out to the person at the year end, and because the person is leaving the company before completing the cycle, full annual cycle, and get the bonus, so to compensate for that, a joining bonus could be given, right? So these are the various reasons why a company might say that, fine, there's a joining bonus that you will get for whatever you might have, you might be leaving on the table, or whatever extra expenses you might incur when joining the company. Another
Right.
factor is also that, like, of course, every company have an internal parity. Let's say I talk about myself. Let's say me and Arnav, if we are working in the same company, we know that we both are with similar capabilities, we are at the similar position. And now, let's say if my salary is 20 lakhs, and if Arnav gets hired in the company at 40 lakhs, I'm going to feel bad about it, right? And no company
Right.
wants that scenario, right? Uh, so, like if we ourselves put in those shoes, I we do not ever want that someone in the company is paid much more monthly salary than what I'm paid while we are at the same level. And there's a word for it called parity, that there has to be a salary parity that has to be maintained in an organization, right? Now, unlike
Right.
government organization, of course, when we hire people at different levels, it is possible that the person who we know is a good fit for the team might already have a salary which is a bit high, right? But that doesn't mean that we cannot hire the person. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't include this really great guy in the team. And one way to fix that is that instead of having people at very different salaries at the same position, they can be compensated with through different kind of bonuses, right? Now, let's say if I am at a salary of 30 lakhs already, and I am in talks with a company, the company is really great. I love the people there. but their budget for this role, for this position is only 20 lakhs, right? Now, of course, I cannot join them for less salary that I already earn.
Right.
How company can, of course, address this for me is that they can give me a joining bonus, they can give me a retention bonus. So net in the overall year, I end up earning more or less the same. It might be related to my performance as well, but at the same time, company is able to maintain the parity so that other people in the team who are at a certain salary level, they do not feel bad, right? Now, of course, if I am more capable, if I'm really great, if I'm better than everyone else at this level, I can perform and get promoted in 6 months, and then my salary can be increased, right? So this is the reason for which various joining bonuses are added. Joining bonus might be added for 3-4 different reasons. One is that you are losing out on a certain bonus that you were to get in the company, and this company wants to get you to join as quickly as possible, so they can compensate for that.
They call it buyout, some people call it.
Yes. All right, so that could be the joining bonus, or let's say it might be given out to just maintain the parity, but at the same time, do not ask you to lose something that you are earning. Third could be that there are any additional expenses that you might need to incur when joining the new company, and this could be used to kind of fill that gap.
Understood. I think some of those things carry over to the next question also. But then, what's the difference between, say, a retention bonus and a joining bonus?
So retention bonus is the paid out that, this will be paid out after you have finished certain amount of time at the company, right? So let me put some real numbers here. Let's say there's a young engineer, really sharp one, joining at 10 lakh. Currently, he has a salary of 10 lakhs a year. And let's say he has another offer of, let's say, 18 lakhs a year. And I also want to hire the person, right?
Right.
Now, I know that in fixed salary, giving 18 lakhs is not feasible. So it could be broken down that, let's say, the person will have 14 in fixed, 2 as joining bonus, and 2 as retention bonus. Now, joining bonus will also have a term that right after joining, if you leave the company within a period of 1 year, then you will have to return the amount. Right? Now, the retention bonus is in a way that he will be paid out this amount the day the person completes 1 year at the company. Right?
Okay.
So joining bonus is paid upfront. However, if you leave within a certain period of time, this might be different at different companies, but you will have to pay it back if you leave in less than that period. Retention bonus will be the money that you will be paid irrespective of anything else. The moment you finish 1 year at the company, it is not a performance bonus. Now, one of the reasons, very candid talk, why HRs generally add a retention bonus as well is that, of course, everyone wants stable people in the company, right? Like every company, if they're hiring you, they want you to create some impact there, some delta in the business there. And then, of course, you might continue with the company for a decade or whatever time, but maybe you might even leave after 2-3 years after having created good, meaningful impact, which is also, of course, okay, right? But the company want to make sure that you are not just taking up the offer to boost up your salary slips and then switch again. They want you to stay there for at least a year or 2 or 3, create some meaningful impact, and then leave, right? So retention bonus is in a way to ensure that also, in a structured way, that you are going to get this money only after you have spent some time there. And the company is assuming that if you have spent this much time here, then definitely you would have created some impact, right? Now, the counter scenario that companies are trying to address with that is that, let's say someone is at a salary of 5 lakhs. Now, this company likes this person a lot. They are willing to pay him 15 lakhs, but what they are worried about is that what if this person joins us, uptakes his salary to 15 lakhs, but just leaves after 2 months, and then negotiates, from 15 lakhs, negotiates 18 lakhs, 20 lakhs from some other company. So we do not want to be used like that. While we appreciate the skills of the person, we want to give him a big uptick, but we do not want to be used like that just for the salary uptick, right? So to address that, what HRs often devise, and this is in a way, if you see, it is win-win for everyone, that the person is also getting a higher pay, but the company is also on the safer side that you cannot, kind of just use their higher salary to get next jump, right? That is totally okay, but spend a year, 2 year here, create some good impact, get some promotions here, and then move on. So basically, retention bonus is kind of used, like, again, the word itself is self-explanatory. This is to retain you in the company for, a certain period of time.
Got it. Before we actually continue with some of, already I had some questions. There is actually one question that has come up from the chat, and it's interesting people ask this. is that is there more tax cut on joining bonus or the retention bonus than actual monthly salary? This is something people often
Yes,
ask.
yes. Not really, not really. In the income tax laws, there is no such rule which says that bonuses are to be taxed separately. It is all considered as part of the, income. Yes, there might be a TDS deducted on it. That when the joining bonus is being paid to you, there will be a TDS deducted on it, which might be more or less basis the tax planning that you have. However, end of the year, no matter what is the TDS deducted, end of the year, when you file in your income tax return, irrespective of whether it was salary or bonus, it will be counted as income. And if there is extra TDS deducted, you can claim it back in your income tax return. If there is less, if company deducts less TDS and you end up earning more, then you will have to pay more taxes. However, some of the bonuses sometimes might lead to tax saving as well. Again, I will not take a deep dive into that right now. Maybe we can do another session on taxation
Sure.
for taxes later. But
Yeah,
yes,
we have got a lot of interest for that financial planning thing. We'll definitely do an add-on session for that for sure.
but trust me, bonuses most time, like in my experience, at least in my limited experiences, seeing salaries of people or even earning salaries myself, bonuses most likely will not lead to additional tax for you.
Right, right. Now, in addition to that, bonus question, we talked about some of the fixed bonuses like joining and retention bonus. Now, there is also a performance bonus that is sometimes written in part of your package. So, it sometimes is said up to or minimum this performance bonus, something like that. So, what are different structures in which performance bonus is paid?
Right. So performance bonus, again, the words always are self-explanatory that this is the bonus tied to performance. Now, we need to understand whose performance. It can be your performance or it can be company's performance as well. Right. Now, there are certain job roles where the performance bonus makes a majority. Now, this might not, the techies might not see it often, but let's say a role like sales, right, where the performance is directly indicative that in this month how much sales did I bring to the company, right? So there generally performance bonuses are all tied to that, whatever sales you do, basis that you will have a performance, right? As you grow older and older, as you become and get into the leadership positions, your compensation will always start getting more and more heavy towards your performance bonus. Because for example, let's say if a company is hiring a CEO or if a company is hiring a business head, right? Now this person's responsibility is not writing code that as long as I rolled out a project in time, then I'm doing my job properly. But the job of a business head or a CEO is going to be that how well your business is performing, right? So then his majority of compensation is going to get derived from that in tea time, let's say in a year from now or 2 years from now, where do you get this business? How much money is this business making for the company, right? So however, now let me put this in more in context for typical techie, let's say somewhere between 1 to 15 years of experience. Here for a techie, performance bonus will be tied to generally, like there are two ways companies structure it. Let's say larger companies would say that there is a personal performance multiplier to it and there's a company
Right.
performance multiplier to it, right? Now let's say there could be one scenario that the company does really really well in this period. However, your performance have been just average. You will still get a performance bonus, but it will be slightly lesser. Second scenario might be that you did exceptionally well, company also did exceptionally well in this period. So you are going to get a bigger multiplier, right? As an example, let's say a company says that your base performance bonus is 2 lakhs. It is going to have a 1x multiplier of company performance. It is going to have 1x multiplier of your performance. So in best case, you might get up to 4 lakhs. But in worst case, assuming that the company continues doing too well, you will still get at least 2 lakhs, right? So yes,
Right.
you should discuss these things. If you see a performance bonus section in your offer, you should discuss that what is the minimum bonus committed, what is the max it can get to, what are the variables to that. Because when you know
And what are
that,
the targets also? That's also important to
correct,
have in mind.
correct. That what are the targets? It is important that you have gotten this very well defined, so that you can make sure that you are achieving those targets, and then you can get the performance bonus. It's a bad place to be in, where at the year end you are told that you are going to get a bad performance bonus because you didn't perform well, and you didn't even know on what parameters your performance was to be evaluated. So it is better
Right.
to kind of get this defined very very precisely at the beginning itself.
Right. And then this was another question that actually came up, and I think when you're talking about performance bonus, some part of company performance. So I think there's also something called stock-based incentive, SBIs, and something like that in packages. So this, I believe, would work only for the publicly traded companies.
Correct. So this is only relevant for really huge companies which have done IPO. When I say that a company has done IPO, it's it's a company of the size of, let's say, Amazon or Microsoft, etc., or TCS or Infosys. Uh, Most of the smaller companies, startups, or even mid-sized companies, they will not be public yet. This basically, essentially, in very simple words, simply means that if the company's shares, which are traded in the public market, if their prices increase, then all the employees are also going to get some certain incentives. If they go down, then these incentives will not be given. And the reason companies will give these kind of incentives is that, of course, a company's performance is a cumulative sum of performance of everyone in the team, right? So if everyone in the team knows that if we perform well, if the company's business grows, if the stock goes higher, then we are going to get incentive. And then, in a way, it is ownership of the employees as well. That if company performs well, we are not only going to get our salaries, but we are also going to get additional incentives.
Right. And if you're in a publicly traded company, then when the sort of stock market celebrates your company going up, the employees should also feel some part of that happiness. So this component can help there. Next segment, let's talk a little bit about the components which are not hard cash in nature. So stocks, ESOPs, RSUs, a lot of names out there. And we will start with the fundamentals here, right? I think this question also comes up a lot in like equity, stock, share, three different words are there. Is it the same? Is it different? What does it mean?
Yeah, before going into these, I think a bit specific, I will just want to call out one thing and this is particularly with the young engineers, and to be very candid, when I was 20-year-old, probably I also felt the same. I have seen a lot of people making this mistake that, I only care about what cash the company gives me. I will give you one example. One of one of the mentee I used to guide, he told me that, sir, I have got two really good offers. One company is paying me 16 lakhs in cash. Another company is paying me 15 lakhs in cash. So I'm thinking I will join the company which is paying me 16 lakhs in cash. Now, tell me a little more. Tell me about which companies these are. What is the overall offer structure? He said that, this company is paying me 16 lakhs cash. That is all. The other company is paying me 15 lakhs in cash. But, they are giving me 5 lakhs per year in ESOPs, and they will give me some other bonus as well. But, because the fixed part is higher at other companies, so I'm thinking, right? So first thing is that, ESOP and RSUs, in whatever format the company might be giving you equity, it is as good as cash, if not better, right? I'll explain, right after we will explain how and why, but do not brush aside, whatever ESOP, RSU a company might be giving you. Of course, you might evaluate whether the company I'm talking to, is it going to survive, or is it going to shut down in a year or two, right? And if you feel this company is not really going to do well, it's not going to survive, then why should you join, irrespective of what salary they give you, right? You do not want to be irrespective of what salary, what ESOPs give you. You shouldn't join a company where you do not see that the company is going to do well, right? And if if you believe that company is good, it is going to do well, it is going to grow, then the ESOPs are actually probably more valuable than what cash you might be getting. I will also explain this with examples from history, but maybe let's do that later.
Correct.
In the session.
So I think to start off with set up the fundamentals so that we can discuss the options and purchase plan, all of that. But to start off with, what do these three words mean, and what exactly does equity mean? Like if you get 1,000 shares of a company, what does that really mean? A lot of people don't even understand that.
Right. On a higher level, in layman word, I can first tell you that equity, stock, share, more or less, they are all the same. There might be some very nuanced, for example, between stock and share, there is very nuanced, if you go to the Investopedia and read about it. So basically, share, you may say, is superset of stock. Every stock is a share. Every share might not be stock. Let me take just 1 minute to talk about it.
Sure, of course.
All right. So shares, for example, share is a piece of the company, right? Now, let's say if an investor is making an investment, let's say there is an investor which comes and says that I want to invest 100 CR into Skiller, right? In return, he is going to get certain shares, right? Now, shares are of different category. Investors will have a different category of share. Founders will have a different category of share. And let's say employees might have a separate category of share. There might be some external advisors or some strategic investors. They might have a different category of shares, right? All of these are shares, right? There is something called as, for example, preference shares. What preference share, which is generally given to the investors who are investing their cash, only they generally have preference shares. What preference shares mean is that, let's say, whenever the company is sold, first their shares will be liquidated to the extent to which they had invested in the company. So let's say a company raises 100 cr in investment, and let's say after 1 year the company gets sold for 110 cr. First of all, 100 cr of the investors will be given back to them because they had the preference shares, and remaining 10 cr could be distributed in whatever way is supposed to be distributed among all the shareholders.
Right.
Let's say if a company gets sold, it had raised 100 cr in investment and it got sold for 90 cr. Then all the 90 cr will go to people holding preference share first, because they had invested 100 cr in hard cash in the company itself, right? And that is very reasonable, that is very fair, right? So like these all are make share. Now stock is a subset of share. Stocks, you may say, is a kind of a type of share, right? Equity again is pretty much similar, but if we talk in the context as an employee, if you are considering joining a company, for you, do not need to kind of confuse yourself in a lot of nitty-gritties. Equity, stock, share, you can safely assume are all the same.
Right. I mean, as long as you're not investor or a founder, then these differences don't matter.
If you are not an investor, if you are not making a cash investment into the company, if you are not founding a company, then you can safely assume that equity, stock, share are all same for you.
Correct. Now, let's start talking actually about the bigger companies, then we'll come to the startup world as well. So, RSUs is something that, you go for any big company, they have a RSU segment in the compensation. So, what are RSUs? How do they work basically?
Right. So, to begin with, RSU, is an acronym. What does it mean, right? So, RSU, if I expand on that, it is restricted stock unit or reserved stock unit. These two are used interchangeably. Just give me one moment. My electricity flipped. Quick check. I'm still online, right?
Audio is there. Video, I think, has stopped. Yeah. It's back. Video is also back. Right.
Awesome. Yeah. So RSUs are, restricted stock units. Basically, it is, in a way, you may assume that this is also a sort of compensation given to the employees by the employer, right? Generally, RSUs are given by publicly traded companies or pretty large companies. So they are basically like there is another word called vesting. We will talk about it, what vesting means. But basically, RSUs are given to you by the employer. The frequency can be defined by the employer that, do you get them monthly, do you get them quarterly, or you might get them once in a year, that, once you complete 1 year, then you get certain RSUs. Now this getting the RSU is basically called vesting, right? And at the time of vesting, there's a fair market value assigned to it, right? That whatever might be the fair market value of the company at that point in time, basis that X number of shares will be given out to you. Now, once they have been given to you, how their value change over time, you are going to reap the benefit. So let's say someone joined Amazon in 2010. Probably Amazon's share price at that time might have been some $100 or so. Now let's say if I got $10 shares of Amazon in 2010. Now how the price of Amazon share change over time, I am going to reap all the benefit of that. It's not that Amazon will just give you maybe a certain amount to me. However, the price of the value of the share change over time, once they have been assigned to me, that is going to be my benefit. And of course, if they go down and if I have not sold them, then I might also lose the money. That is also there, just like any share that you own.
Right. Got it. So now, as we talk about ESOPs for startups, I think before that, one more fundamental thing is like, what does something like stock option, or some places also call a purchase plan? So ESOP, ESPP, these kind of terminology is used. And in this case, you're not actually getting stocks, you're getting an option. So what does that really mean to the individual?
Right. So if we try to understand it again, we can begin kind of understanding it from the word itself, that stock option, right? A company says that you will get RSU, you will get reserved stock units, versus another company says that you get stock option, right? What that simply means is that you have an option to own the share, right? It's not mandated on you, but you always have the option, right? Now, what is the difference between an option and owning it? Right? The difference is that it is your choice whether you want to take it or not. You have not taken it yet, but the company is telling you that in future as well, within whatever terms and conditions might be, we'll talk about some of the most common ones, but you have an option to own these shares whenever you want, or you have an option to purchase it as well. One might also say it as, that is also is the purchase plan, that you have an option to purchase it. Now you might ask that why are you giving me an option to purchase it and not just give it me to me instead, right? The
Right.
reason for that is that when you get certain ownership, then there comes tax liability, right? Now,
Exactly.
let's say if there is, if you like, for example, whatever salary you earn, we were talking about taxation, right? Whatever salary you earn, you have to pay tax on it. You cannot escape it, right? Now,
Hmm.
when you get shares of a company, now if it is a very young privately owned company, if you own the share of the company, you will have the tax liability of the same, right?
Right.
However, if it is a very young company, you cannot even sell their shares because they are not in public, right? If let's say if you own shares of Amazon, you can very well go and sell the share whenever you want, or if you
Right.
can of course also retain it. But if it is a very small company, you cannot sell the shares. So now, if I, as a young company, give shares to the employees, then my employees are going to be in a bad situation, that they have earned these shares, they have owned these shares have a tax liability, so I'm supposed to pay tax on that, but I cannot sell these shares, right? So I
Yeah.
own something which has nominal value on it, and I'm supposed to pay tax, but I cannot sell. Versus, let's say if you get Amazon's share, then fine, you can decide that I had 10 shares. The tax I need to pay for them is, I can pay them either through my salary that I get, if I feel that I believe that these shares are going to grow a lot, so I don't want to let them go, or I can maybe just sell one share out of my 10 shares and pay the tax, right, and retain rest 9. To
Correct.
address this, companies have this stock option or purchase plan, where you are not a shareholder yet, but you have a right, like company is giving you in return, that when you want, under certain conditions, when these certain conditions are met, you can pay a small amount for it and you can own them, right? We will talk
Yeah.
about, of course, in detail that how exactly that functions. So
Right.
benefit to you of owning stock option instead of shares is that, one, you do not have to, there is no tax liability for you, there is no reporting that you need to do, there is no annual reporting to the let's say registrar of the company. uh, Third is that in a privately held company, if you become a shareholder, then there are a lot of like, for example, in your every year in your ITR, you will have to mention that I am shareholder of this
Correct.
company and this is my
Right. Right.
income or dividend from this company. By owning
Right.
stock options, you will get benefit as the company's value grow, but you are saved from all of these activities. So stock
If
option is
actually, if there is funding, then you have to pay further tax as well at the company.
yes, yes, exactly. If you own shares and if the company raises funds and the company's value goes up, then again you will have to pay taxes. But if you own stock options, you do not need to worry about any of these. So actually, stock option is nothing but just a very innovative financial tool designed for younger companies, where employees can still own shares of the company without having to worry about all the nitty-gritties that a share owner has to go through.
Right, right, right. Now, talking about how it is granted, like whether it is RSU at the big companies as well as ESOPs in private companies, there always is this concept of cliff and vesting. So you start getting it at some point of time, and then over some period of time, it is slowly given. Quarterly vesting is there. Even Uber recently got very famous. They are doing daily vesting.
Oh,
So
wow.
what how does this work? Like what is a
Right.
cliff? What is a vesting?
Let's just define these terms first, so that when we are using it, our audiences know what exactly it means. Cliff, let's define cliff first. if we map to the real world, what is a cliff? A point after which something changes, right? Uh,
Right.
so that is exactly what a cliff in a stock plan is. That let's say you join a company, right? When should you become a part owner of the company? Should you become a part owner of the company the day you joined the company? But then what if you leave the next day, right? I join a company and I leave the next day and I have all the shares of the company. It's not fair for the company, right? Because you have not really done anything yet. So the cliff is a period in which a company can fairly assume that if a person have spent this much time in the company, he would have definitely contributed enough to the company where he can have a part ownership of the company, right? So this
Right.
period is called cliff period. And if you leave the company before ending the cliff period, you will not get any shares of the company, right? Now this
Right.
cliff period, in most of the cases, in most of the ESOP plans in India and US and Europe, I have seen, will be typically 1 year. That if you leave a company before finishing your full 1 year at the company, you will not get any shares, be it in the form of RSU or be it in the form of ESOP. For example, if you join Amazon and you leave Amazon in less than 1 year, you will not get any share of the Amazon, right? So this is called
Right.
cliff period. Now, some companies for more leadership role, they might even define cliff period to be 2 years or 1.5 year, but most of the times it is generally kept at 1 year, right? So that is what cliff is. Now vesting is that that for next 4 years we are going to give you a certain number of shares. But again, it doesn't mean that whether you work for 1 year or 2 year or 4 year, you are going to get same amount of share, right? So as we mentioned that RSUs are in a way given as a part of compensation, right? And it is also fair, right? If someone works at a company for 4 years, he should get more shares, and if someone works at a company for 1 year or 2 years, they should get less shares, right? So
Right.
with the vesting plan, companies design that you join the
Right.
company, you spend 1 year. If you spend less than 1 year, you will not get anything. If you spend 1 year, you will get, say, one-fourth of the shares. And after
Right.
that, now companies might have different plans. One company might say that every year you will keep getting, similar amount. That let's say you
Right.
get one-fourth of the shares once you finish 1 year, then you get another one-fourth when you finish 2 years, you get another one-fourth when you finish 3 years, and so on and so forth. Okay, looks like, is that
No,
your
no, no,
robot
nothing.
vacuum cleaner, Arnav?
No, no, no. That's just my dog Augie. So he just came in, opened the door, and
Okay.
then noise started coming in from
No, this happens
outside.
with me when my robotic vacuum cleaner starts coming around to clean. All right. So, we were talking about the vesting period. Now, some other companies might have slightly different vesting periods where it is more heavy towards the later years. Like, actually,
Hmm.
I can, of course, I cannot comment whether what it is exactly today, but Amazon and some other companies also have this plan where you will get probably 1/8 of your total ownership in the first year. You will get 1/6 in the second year, and in the third and
Ah.
fourth year, you will get a majority of it. Right? So some
Right. Right.
companies
Right.
might design it where it is more heavier for the later years, but a more employee-friendly company will probably keep it equal across. Actually, it's hard to say employee-friendly or not, but if a company want to design it more for long-term retainment of the talent, then it will be basically heavier towards the later years, or for some other company, it might be just equal across all 4 years. If you have two exactly same offers, let's say if you have two offers where one company gives you equal in every year, and let's say your stocks are vested monthly or quarterly as opposed to annually. For example, Arnav, you mentioned that Uber is doing daily vesting, right? As
Right.
an
Right.
employee, that is better for you. As an employee, it
Of
is
course.
better for you to have daily, monthly, or quarterly vesting rather than annual vesting. As an employee, it is better for you to have equal vesting rather than heavier vesting on the later part. If you
Correct.
have an
Correct.
option, you should try to negotiate for shorter vesting periods and at least flat vesting plan rather than heavy vesting plan towards the end of the employment.
Right, right, right. We have actually a follow up question around this itself is so, and if you have been given a plan with 4 year vesting, after
Right.
2 years, some part has been vested, then you
Right.
leave. What are the scenarios in that case?
Right. So I had one thing, of course, if they are giving you 4 year vesting plan, what happen if you leave after 2 years depends a lot on exactly. what are the terms of your ESOP plan. So you should review them in detail. I can talk about some of the top level terms. First is that what is your vesting schedule? Are you going to get 1/4 in the first year, 1/4 in the second year, and so on and so forth? That is the first part, right? If you assuming that, let's say if it is so, then whatever stocks are promised to you in 4 years, at the end of 2 years, you will already have half of them vested to you.
Correct.
Right? Now, after you leave, there is something else called as exercising the options. Once you have left the company, you are supposed to exercise your shares, your ESOP, your options, right? What is exercising? Let me define exercising now. Exercising means, as we mentioned earlier, that you had an option to own the shares. Exercise basically means exercising that option, exercising that right, that I had the right to own these shares, and now I want to exercise that right. Right? How do you exercise? You might have to pay something called a strike price, right? So strike price is basically, of course, let's say I join a company today. Now the share price today is only 10 rupees, right? Now I, with my sweat and blood and hard work, along with everyone else in the team, we worked together and we got this company to become really big. And now this company have become a company which is, let's say, where share price have gone from 10 rupees to 1,000 rupees, right? Now, when I am exercising, should the company ask me that now pay 1,000 rupees and exercise the share, then what is the value of all my hard work, right? Because that I could have even purchased even without working at the company. So to address that concern, companies define a strike price. When you join the company will tell you that this is the strike price of your share. No matter how the price of the share changes, whenever you want to own the share, you only need to pay the strike price that we are defining at the time of your joining, and this cannot change. The strike price cannot change until you exercise, right? Now the strike price company might say that for our employees it is 1/2 of the real price today. The company might say this is 1/10 of the strike price today. A company might tell that strike price will be what the share price is today. Now a very friendly ESOP plan will be where the strike price is as low as possible,
Yeah.
Right?
1 rupee strike price is common these days in some of the very employee friendly companies. Yeah.
Absolutely. Here I can, maybe a little bit of pitch that all really good talent why you should work for Scalar. Our share price is close to $700, which is close to 50,000 rupees. But the strike price is, I don't remember it exactly, but probably is 1 cent, which is maybe 50 paisa or, 60 paisa or 70 paisa, whatever. Right. So if let's say if an employee of Scalar, I'm sure Arnav, you might have quite a bit of ESOPs as well. So anyone who is part of Scalar, every single share they own is valued at about 60,000 rupees. But if they want to exercise it, they will only have to pay 60 paisa. Right? So this is a very employee-friendly ESOP plan. So Ahad, whenever you are leaving, now second thing company might put is that there's an exercise period as well. That whatever is your last day of job at the company, after that, within this period, you have to exercise your shares. If you don't, then your shares will be lost. So second thing is that companies should have as long exercise, like as an employee-friendly ESOP plan, the exercise period should be as long as possible. In some cases, and this is something that you all should discuss when joining the company, that what is my exercise period? When I leave the company, how much time do I have to exercise it, right? And how much will I have to pay? Now, for an employee, it will be best if I don't have to pay anything, if I only need to pay maybe, some 5 rupees or 10 rupees, which is a nominal cost. And I can do that for a very long period of time. I can do that for 4 years after leaving the company, right? Because now let's say what could be a bad ESOP plan? A bad ESOP plan could be where, let's say, your strike price is as much as the real price at the time of your joining, and your exercise duration is only 3 months. Now, let's say after 2 years, you leave the company, right? Now, let's say when you joined the company, let's say the share price changed only a little bit. It, let's say, became only double, right? So let's say your ESOP, which were given to you, worth 2 lakhs when you joined. When you are leaving the company, they are worth 4 lakhs. But if your strike price was 2 lakhs, then you need to either pay 2 lakhs to the company and take the shares within 3 months from leaving, or you lose the shares. This is not a good ESOP plan. A good ESOP plan would be, now again, a little bit of self-pitching, that why Scalar is a great place to work. That our ESOP plan is that after you leave, you only need to pay a very nominal, peanut amount to own them, maybe few rupees, maybe in single digit or double digit. and you can do that for 4 years after leaving the company. Actually, I recently heard that now with the new regulation, it is also possible to make the exercise plan even longer than that. I don't know. I heard about that from, that a really good startup of India has made their exercise plan to be 100 years. That, you can
Right.
keep your ESOPs as long as you want. Another downside of exercising the ESOPs is also that when you exercise the ESOPs, immediately right at the moment you have a tax liability on you, right?
Correct. Correct.
So let's say, if you own shares worth 20 lakhs of a certain company, and you decided to move on, that is okay. You created good impact here, and now you want to explore something else, that is okay. And you now your option is that, let's say, even if your strike price is very low, but if you own 20, if you pay 10 rupees and in return you get 20 lakhs worth of stocks, immediately you will have to pay tax on that 20 lakhs, because now that has become your own, right? So if you have really long exercise duration, my advice is no need to exercise, right? Why pay tax unnecessarily? When you should exercise is when there is some liquidity. Whenever you have, let's say, company might give you a buyback from time to time. Company might say that, all right, here are your shares, and you can just give it back to the company, and you will get money as per today's price of the shares. So now you have the liquidity. If you sell your shares, you get cash, and then you can pay the tax. But paying tax without liquidity is financially not very wise. Why would you do that, where you are locking in a lot of money while you will be only able to encash it after some time? So, if you give after 2 years, you will have to exercise your shares within the exercise duration. For that, you will have to pay the strike price to the company. Now it depends. If your exercise duration is too long and if your strike price is very low, no need to exercise, no need to do anything. You just retain your ESOPs. Whenever there's a liquidity, you can exercise them. Or second option is also that you exercise them right away. The consequence of exercising your ESOPs will be that you might have to pay some taxes, and you will have to pay whatever the strike price was.
Right. We have a interesting question here. Is that if vesting exists, then why stock amount is counted in annual CTC?
Right.
And I will also promote Scalar a little bit here. Is that in at least my offer letter, the first year's vesting amount is only written, and good companies do that. When I was running coding blogs, is a similar thing I used to do. There is only put the first year's vesting amount in the package amount. But yes, at least back in my college days, when the sort of provisional whatever offer letter that companies give, even I think I was placed at Zomato, by the way, from college. I did not join them, I joined them much later, but the provisional letter that they give you, that contains the entire 4 years of stock within the first year's letter itself. So
CTC of 40 lakhs and CTC of 40 lakhs and salary of 1 lakh a year, 1 lakh a month.
Exactly. Well, correct.
Yeah.
So that is actually common, I think, right? It happens a lot, especially to stay competitive within college placements. It happens a lot.
Right. So I will also distinguish. Generally, there is a huge difference between the offer letters which are given out in the placements in colleges versus the offer letters which are given out when you have few years of experience when you join a company. Like one crazy thing, a lot of interesting things that need to be fixed in our education system and the employment system as well. That for the as a founder, let's say if I want to go to a college and hire, now the placement cell is just going to ask me that what is your CTC, and basis that you are going to get the slots, right? Exactly, now I see that what other company has done is they have counted all the 4 years of shares in their CTC, and if I try to say that I'm going to pay 15 lakhs in cash, and in 1 year I'm going to give 5 lakhs of shares, so my CTC is 20, which is the genuine thing, right? Now this college is going to tell me, all right, your CTC is 20, but there's another company which pays 12 lakhs in cash, and they also give 5 lakhs of share every year, but they have written 31 as CTC, so you will get slots after 2 days from them, right? Now this is a stupid thing done by the college, right? The college should say that this is not the CTC that we consider, this is the CTC we consider, but of course the placement cells of colleges are not as smart as they should be, so that results in that bloated CTC being counted to give the slots to the companies, right? Now what that leads to is companies unnecessarily bloating their CTCs, and yes, the right approach is your CTC should be what is the cash you are paid in 1 year and what is the shares that you get in that year, not what I will get in 4 years, right? So that is what
Yeah.
you should consider as CTC. Even if, let's say, if employer or recruiter, if they try to tell you that this is your CTC, you should call it out. That what I'm going to consider my CTC is the shares that I get in this year, and whatever other bonuses, etc., I get in this year. But whatever I get in this year is what my CTC should be.
Correct, correct. And actually, the not the provisional one, but the final joining letter that you get when you are joining the company after college has ended, there the structure is actually in the more honest structure only, because there too much juggling around there is not
Yeah.
legally compliant as well. So companies cannot do that, something like that. But the provisional joining letter and all they give at colleges, those are just to compete with each other, get these slots. So that has to be, people should be aware of that.
I do hope
But
that
that's
this will get fixed in few years. Like there is no point where like one thing is that people in the colleges, they are very less aware about these things. They just I remember even like someone who got a 40 lakh CTC with nothing in hand, and actually when the shares are gonna be given over a longer period of time, undermining someone who has an offer of 20 lakhs, which is all in hand, right?
right, right, right.
So when in college we do not know the nitty-gritties, we just see a number and we rejoice. I do hope that like colleges start teaching on a little bit of finances as well, so that people understand
Correct.
that what exactly it is, and they are not kind of misguided by some random numbers.
Right, right, right. Actually, going a little beyond now ESOPs as well, and we can come back if there are more questions in the comments, follow up on them. I think this is also a part that I feel not discussed enough, but also has its benefit, is that your salary breakdown depending on company to company. Lot of different benefits are there, like healthcare plans, group medical insurance, there is education grant or other kinds of food, petrol, telephone bill reimbursement, etc. So some of them are sort of tax saver kind of benefits, but some of them are actually very tangible benefits, like in life you can use those benefits. So I think any ideas from your experience, what kind of these benefits are there and which one of them can be very important and we should definitely think about them while we are considering the package.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, medical insurance, healthcare insurance is extremely important. Do not ever undermine that. Not only whether the company is giving you a medical insurance or not, you should, ask for more details. That what is the maximum cover that I have? Is my insurance cover for up to 5 lakhs, or is it up to 7 lakhs? Is it up to 10 lakhs? Now, two companies, let's say one company which is giving a medical insurance where your annual cover is only 1 lakhs, versus another company which has medical insurance where medical cover is 5 lakhs, and third company where total medical cover is up to 10 lakhs. There is a huge difference between them. I can give you
Right,
another
right.
example. You should also ask that who all can be covered in the medical insurance. Is it only for the person working in the company, which is me, or can I also get my parents covered in this medical insurance, right?
Right.
Can I also have my spouse covered? Can I also have my in-laws? Let's say if you are married, you should check. Does the policy allow adding my in-laws to the medical insurance or not? Can I have my kids
Right.
covered under the medical insurance? Now, this small nitty-gritty makes a huge difference. Now, let's say again, like okay, let me be. I'm trying to promote Scalar here as well. Scalar have a medical insurance policy where the medical cover this year is up to 10 lakhs. We got it increased because of the COVID situation, where if anyone gets admitted, up to 10 lakhs of medical bills will be automatically covered. Your parents, your in-laws, your spouse, your kids, and even if you are not married but you have a domestic partner, all of them can be covered in this insurance if you share their details, right? Now take another company. Now another company says that we do have a medical insurance, but the limit is only 5 lakhs, and this insurance is only for the employee. You cannot cover your parents in the insurance. Now if you go to, and now having medical insurance is very very important, right? Because
Right.
like at one time or other anyone can run into a medical emergency, and you do not want
Correct.
to be worried that there is a bill of 5 or 10 lakhs that I have to pay, right? Effectively, if you work for a company which have insurance up to 10 lakhs, effectively it might mean that you have your compensation increased by 10 lakhs, because otherwise in case of a medical emergency you will have to pay 10 lakhs from your pocket, right?
Correct.
Now let's say even if you buy medical insurance for your parents yourself, if your parents are above 50, most likely you will end up paying an insurance cost of 40 to 50,000, just the insurance cost for them. Now if a company is
Right.
getting that for you, that is also effectively additional CTC for you, right? So these are really important. Often I have seen that young people often ignore these. That fine, it is just an insurance. How does it matter? But these are important. A company
Right.
having good insurance plan for the employee also indicates that it's a company which which is very inclusive. I will also add that not just an insurance plan, but an insurance plan which is very inclusive, also
Right.
indicate
Right.
that it's a company which cares for its employees, right? And that is the kind of group that you would want to work with, right? I have a very close friend of mine who works for a great MNC. Often we kind of think that if it is an MNC, I will go there. I will not go for a startup. But now go into the details. Is the MNC covering your parents? Now, this very close friend of mine that I'm talking about, their insurance plan doesn't cover their parents. And if
Right.
they want to get their parents covered, they will ask for another 40, 50,000 as insurance amount, right?
Okay.
Now, versus there
Hmm.
might be a very young startup which has much more friendly insurance plan. So now you should
Right.
know that which company is actually better. It's not just an MNC or a startup, but if a startup is giving you insurance up to 10 lakhs, covering everyone in your family, that is definitely a better company compared to an MNC as well, right?
Right.
Group.
Right.
Another very important part which often is not talked about, and I do not have precise data to back this up, but I am sharing this from my personal experience. Often people also argue that a medical insurance is only 5, 6, 7,000 rupees. I will buy it myself, right? My personal experience, even from talking to a lot of people, in terms of medical insurances, if you have a corporate group insurance, you will never have to worry about the claim process because a
Exactly.
company,
Exactly. Very.
insurance
Very
company,
important. Very important.
as an insurance company, they will never mess with a large organization and say that we are not going to settle your insurance claim. But
Right.
as an individual, you cannot fight a case with a big insurance company, right? Even if you have bought the
Right.
insurance, your medical bill was 6 lakhs, and the company says that, see, as per XYZ policies, we are only going to give you 50,000, and if you do not agree with that, you can go to the court. You cannot do anything. Actually, practically, you cannot do anything. You cannot
Right. Right.
fight a case against a big insurance company, right? So getting corporate medical insurance is actually very important. Often, and like push your company that I need to have a solid medical insurance. That is a must-have for you. Because even if you
Right.
buy the
And if you have personal, then you can also top up your corporate one with a
yes,
personal. So all those things you can do, but the corporate one has that benefit where your
right,
company will fight for you
correct,
for the
correct.
claims.
Correct. Another thing is that even if you have your personal insurance, your company also has personal insurance in case of a medical emergency. Let's say if your company has a medical insurance of 10 lakhs, you bought a personal insurance of 15 lakhs. Even if your medical bill goes up to 15 lakhs, one by one, you can use both the insurance policies and remain covered, right? So that is about
Right.
insurance, healthcare plan, etc. Super important, guys. Do not undermine it. Ask for all the details of the insurance policy when you are considering the offer letter. Education and learning grants, super important. Like trust me, people who invest in your growth, like often people ask me that, I have few extra lakhs, where should I invest it? The best place to invest for your own learning. Like I actually also heard this from one of the scalar learner earlier, that whatever fees I paid to scalar, that is the best investment that I ever made, because I get almost 10x return in just 1 year. I cannot get that in any shares, right? So
Right.
if your company is also keeping aside budgets for that, that's a great indicator, right? So that is
Right.
definitely a valuable component. Food, petrol bill reimbursement, these are helpful to save your tax, because of course, irrespective of whether company have these reimbursement or not, you are going to spend them, you are going to eat, you are going to
Correct.
travel, right?
Of
But
course.
if you have these as a part of reimbursement, you will not have to pay tax on these parts, right? So any
Right.
HR department which is fairly mature will add these components so that the employees can save on taxes, right? So
Right.
yeah, I hope
Right.
that covers most of the things.
Understood. We have to go back to ESOPs a little bit because a very interesting question. Love to pick this one up, which is if your startup gets acquired. Like a lot of people think about IPO and share selling the shares and all, but what if an MNC acquires, right? And then what happens to those shares? Do they convert to company shares? And
Correct.
I think a lot of different scenarios can happen. So I mean, you can
Absolutely,
explain on
absolutely. This
those.
is very open-ended. But again, you should, Somil, read the ESOP grant letter that company gives you, and ask, the company that what would happen in this scenario, right? Now, a natural scenario, a default scenario that I would assume most of the ESOP plans of the companies will cover, that if the company gets acquired as per the shareholding patterns, the ESOP owners immediately exercise and liquidate as well at the time of acquisition. Now, acquisition might be in different forms and formats, right? Now, let's
Yeah,
say,
entirety of it gets vested immediately.
yes,
That is generally the good
right.
employee friendly ones are like that.
This is called the acceleration clause. That let's
Right.
say your shares might be vested over 4 years. But after 2 years itself, company said that the company is getting sold. So acceleration clause says that whatever was committed to you for years, it will be given to you immediately, right? Now, but now they are given to you, what will happen to them, right? Now the scenario number one is that the company was acquired all for cash, right? Let's say the example might be, mm, I'm trying
I
to
think
recall.
White Hat Junior recently was acquired completely
Was it
for
a full
cash
cash
by
acquisition?
juice.
Okay.
Full
If it
cash
was,
it was, fully
okay,
cash.
got it. So if it was a full cash acquisition, then like I do not know exact ESOP plan of Whitehead Junior, but everyone who was working at Whitehead Junior, whatever ESOPs were given to them, they would have been converted into shares and then immediately converted into money, and then people will be given money to the employees, right? Now
Right.
there can be another scenario where it is not all cash acquisition, but it is all share acquisition. That let's say if Baiju had acquired Whitehead Junior, but instead of paying money, they said that in return of we will give you 300 million worth of shares of Baiju. Right? In
Right.
that case, what could happen is that everyone who had these shares, they will own Baiju's shares now. Or let's say if Amazon acquires a company, then they will own shares of Amazon. Now they might opt to sell it in the share market and take the money, right? Now, the third
Right.
scenario might also be that it is a mix of share and cash deal, right? So again, then it will be accordingly. That also depends on for what amount the acquisition is happening. Now, let's say if it is a bad state, that the company suffered, it is in the losses, and the company is being sold for nothing, almost nothing, right? Where let's say the amount for which company is sold is even less than the whatever funds company might have raised, right?
Right.
And then the investors might have preference share. So for whatever amount company is sold, it will just go to the investor first, and employees might not get anything. So a lot of scenarios. But if it is a upsell, where company is sold at a good value, at a high value,
Right.
and it is a cash deal, then employees should get money when the company is sold. A good example here is Citrus Pay. Citrus Pay was acquired by Payu. Jiten Gupta was the founder and CEO of the company. And when that happened, everyone in Citrus Pay got a lot of money. Like one interesting anecdote I can tell there is that the person who was office boy at Citrus Pay, he got enough
Right.
money from that transaction through his ESOPs, using it, which he bought a flat. So,
Wow. Wow.
we can imagine
Fantastic.
that how other people might have earned, right? So this is
Correct.
how.
Correct.
And interestingly, at Citrus Pay, Jitin very strongly believed that everyone who is part of the team should have ESOPs. So even the office boy had an ESOP.
Right. 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 Right.
And of course, he spent
Uh,
good 8 9 years working with them. So over time, he
correct.
accumulated a
Excellent.
lot.
Deserves that as well, of course. Of
Yes,
course.
absolutely.
This is a question from LinkedIn that has come up, and I think when young people looking for jobs, and this happens a lot, especially, is that joining at a core team in a startup, and he has been given an option to get 0.2 to 0.5% in ESOPs, but by doing that, the cash component would be less.
Yes.
So is it a common thing that you get a two kind of offers, more cash, more
Right.
ESOPs kind of thing, and then if it happens, then what is a good mental model to think about it?
Absolutely, absolutely. No, so this is not very uncommon. However, when you are see 0.2 to 0.5 equity of a company is big. Trust me.
It's a
And the number,
major thing is
it's major ownership of the company. 0.5%, for example, in a company of scalar size, to get an ownership of 0.5%, probably you will have to spend 50 to 100 CR, right? So
right,
like if your company become bigger, not even really big, but even if it gets bigger, it's really major ownership. It's not a small amount, right? Now, if you are owning that much, you should have a mental model that you are almost becoming co-founder of that. Right?
right,
Another point to understand is that while you might get 0.2 to 0.5% of the equity at the beginning, at the time when you are joining, over time it will reduce. It will definitely reduce. I am
right,
assuming that any company you are joining who is willing to give point 2, point 5, these kind of shares, it must be a very early stage company, right? And if it
right,
is a early stage company, over time they are going to raise more funds, they are going to hire a lot of really good people. So it is very natural that your ownership might reduce in percentage as the value of the company goes. As long as your overall value is going bigger, it is great, right?
right,
Now it is very normal to take a hit on the salary for such. If however you should only do that when you can say that I want to be co-founder of this company, when I am so committed to this idea, I so strongly believe in this that this is going to become bigger. If you are not having this conviction, then you shouldn't, right? Of course, you commit yourself when you shouldn't fool yourself essentially, right? There's no point
Right.
taking a salary card, and then after 3 months or 6 months thinking that I will take another job, right? You should only
Right.
do this if you are sure that you are committed, to, for super long term, for 3-4 years, and you will make it big. If that happens at this kind of ownership, you might end up making enough money that you will never have to work for money ever in your life. Again, I can give examples from Scalar's journey. In our very early stage, when we were a very small company, right, we had definitely had people who might have gotten a salary of 50 lakhs a year in the market, but they joined us for a salary of 50,000 rupees a month. Massive salary cut, right? Massive salary cut. Of
Correct.
course,
Correct.
they
Correct.
had good ownership of the company, of course, and it's not just one person, not just one person of that category. I think pretty much everyone in our core team constitutes of such people. However, the shares of the company they own today, if converted into cash, it is always enough cash to that they never will have to work for money in their life again. Of course, if they do not start living like Vijay Mallya, but but yeah, so it has value. It definitely has value. If you are joining a team which is very high impact, if you believe in the mission, if you believe that together we can make this really big, it is always worth it. Of course, you can
Right.
negotiate. You can negotiate for a little more. You can say that the risk is also high. So maybe if they are asking you for 0.2, you might ask for 0.4. Settle in for something which makes sense. Be respectful. Make sure that it is logical as well. But if you very strongly believe that this can become big, and another thing I will, however, add is that you should not take a pay cut so big that it is hard for you to even sustain yourself, right? You must
That is
make
important.
sure that is super important. Do not take a pay cut. For example, if you have liabilities, if you have your EMIs, your family expenses, your responsibilities, if it is so much that you need maybe say 50,000 or 1 lakh every month anyway, do not go beyond that, because then it will be unsustainable. After 3 to 6 months, you will be having difficulties, and then you might have to just leave. That is bad for everyone. So make sure that you are still taking cash money, which is enough for your needs, whatever your need might be. One person's need might be 20,000 rupees or a month. Another person's need might be 2 lakhs rupees a month. But whatever your needs are, make sure that you are earning that.
Right. So I think out of all of the discussion, because young people joining young companies, so one component I think we have gotten a question and not a lot of people ask about. So gratuity component, and also some part of I think this PF contributions that companies do. So can you shed some light on that? Like how does that part work and how important is that?
Right. So PF is, in today's world, to be very candid, PF I do not consider it as the best way of investment, uh, right? Because the interest rates, etc., are not really that great.
Right.
However, of course, PF is mandated. But my recommendation to everyone is keep your PF contribution. Now there is, however, one caveat. If you are someone, if there are kind of people, whatever I get in the hand, I'm going to spend it all. I'll buy and I'll drink, and if you are that person, then get it cut in PF so that you do not get money in your hand, so you cannot waste it. But if you are a person who is economically, financially disciplined, then it is
Right.
better to just have your minimum amount cut to the PF. And like, of course, another benefit of PF, however, is that whatever component you pay, your employer will also pay the same contribution. So you cannot dictate that I want to get this much PF deducted, right? The company will tell you that this is our PF component part. This is this much PF. There's a minimum amount. So above that will have to be given by the employer. But after that, it is also about the employer, right? But generally, investment wise, it is better to invest. Let's say if an employer gives you two options, hypothetically, I don't think whether they give such options, but let's say an employer give you this option that we can deduct 5,000 rupees in PF every month, and we will add 5,000 from our side, and 10,000 every month will be deposited in PF. The another option is that I deduct only, let's say, 1,000 rupees in PF, and I will add another 1,000 rupees into your PF, and rest balance 4,000 I will give you directly in cash. Second option is better, because then you can invest that 4,000 rupees in much better ways, right? So
Right.
whatever minimum has to be mandated by the government, you deposit that. Rest you can have in SIP, in stocks, or in whatever place you might have, right? Gratuity is something which is that it's a small amount which is set aside by your employer every month. If you spend 4 years, like there is certain period, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 years or some such period, if you spend that much time, then you get all that gratuity cumulatively in one go. All right. So
Correct,
gratuity
correct,
is
correct.
also good, but again, more in the context of an average techie. To be very candid, staying at a company at 4 or 5 years, while of course, if you are growing well, if the company is doing well, you might. But there's also likelihood that you might want to explore some other things as well, right? If you leave the company sooner, then you will end up losing all the gratuity part, right? If you do not spend that
Yeah.
long period. So do not over index on gratuity. My recommendation is do not over index on gratuity. Assume
It
that
should not
employee,
become a shackle to keep you when you,
yes,
if you feel you don't want to stay there, then that, okay, if I stay for another year, then my gratuity
correct,
will sort of mature, then
correct.
I will stay for another year, and you're not liking that. Is not a good state to
Absolutely.
be
In
in.
the younger days, you want to make sure that if there are some really great opportunities out there better than here, you should have freedom to explore that, right? So like try to make sure if there's no gratuity, if that is added to the CTC, that is also okay. Don't worry about that. Doesn't really matter. Actually, here, as you know about the financial and career decisions, I often say that do not blindly take advice from the parents because the world has changed. Of
They
course,
will over
you know,
index on things like
yes.
gratuity and PF as well.
Yes,
So
yes. So
so
my dad probably he would have always recommended me that no, there should be big gratuity component. For because for them they join one job and they work in that job for 30 years, right?
correct.
Uh, the world has changed now. We take up jobs. Of course, it is possible that we might continue in the same job for 5, 10, 20 years as well, end up becoming CEO of the company that I joined. That is possible. But it is also possible that in the early years, you might explore some other paths. You might, explore other opportunities. So do not over-index on gratuity and PF. These are, in today's modern world, these are little bit of things of old world.
Right. Actually, about PF, I mean, just if somebody who has not started their first corporate job yet, so if you opt in once, then you have to stay opted in for the next company as well. Like the minimum amount you have to do that. So I fortunately got to know this when I started my first corporate job. That was before I was running. Before that, I was already running a startup, and then we had not grown to that size yet where we had PF contributions. So I had not contributed to it, and I joined my first job, and they were like, "You don't have PF account yet. How are you working for 3 years?" And they said, "Since you don't have, you have an option to join or not join." And as a result of that, I had never joined, and I figured that if you are financially sound, then you can invest in better things than PF. But then that's a call for you to take. As like I think Abhimanyu said, that if you are somebody who ends up spending everything, then that can be a difficult thing. So I think on that note, we will wrap that up as well, because we have been planned for an hour, but we have actually exceeded that. But I see that there are still more questions coming up. So definitely we can do a follow up session on financial planning, because very
Absolutely.
valid questions that some more have also come up. So we will sort of collate the further questions that come up in the chat and the comments below, and we'll definitely have one more session on better financial planning, and delve a little bit into that tax part as well, how to sort of arrange those grants and all to sort of reduce your tax, etc. And maybe there might be some advice for also young entrepreneurs as well. Some people might want to start their own company, how we can have some financial advice for those people as well. So we'll definitely do that, and we'll meet all of you again next Sunday, 5 p.m. So till
Right.
then, hopefully this
Sunday.
helped.
And I'll do the typical thing that I learned from the YouTube celebrities: press the bell icon. And yes, actually,
Yes.
one important one, guys. Of course, we try to come up with things that might be interesting and of value to any young techie. If there is any topic, any question that you would like us to talk about, please post that in the comment. We will try to discuss that, maybe as soon as we can.
Yeah, plus
Of
another
course,
thing, discord.gg/scalar. So I'll just write that down also below here. This is our community on this thing, Discord, and very vibrant community. I think plus 30,000 people now. And there is actually Ask Abhimanyu channel as well, where you can put up any questions that you have, and some of those topics we can definitely take up here. Feel free to join that community, and of course stay subscribed, so that next Sunday And till then, during the week also, we are doing a lot of great sessions. Yesterday, Anshuman and Mohit, they were doing a fantastic session. So we'll keep doing such sessions, and keep on sending us comments on what you want us to talk about. We will talk about those things. So hopefully this clears a lot of your doubts about packages. Many of you joining new companies now, this is the time. So hopefully it clears your head. So thank you everybody for coming in, and thank you Abhimanyu for taking out the time. Let's meet again on next Sunday with everybody. Okay. Bye.
Bye.